Hey, are you looking for the best way to level up in City of Heroes without having to beg in all chat to leech off of somebody else's farm? Well, you've come to the right place. Now, the first thing that's most important, obviously, get the double experience booster. That way, all the time that you spend is going to be doubly as effective. Next up, you want to play Death from Below runs. Now, if nobody's creating one of these when you're looking, you can run them too. It's not that hard. You just have to type in looking for group chat saying DFB forming. And then people will send you messages. You invite them. Once you have 8, you press the LFG tab, press the Q button, and that will launch you into the instance. Now, Death from Below is really fantastic because it has a lot of dense amount of enemies to fight through. Everyone's low level. Everyone can get there easily. And every single floor that you accomplish, there will be another trainer that allows you to level up. So you should expect to level up 4 or 5 times per Death from Below run, at least at the start. Now, very importantly, every time you finish a Death from Below run, not only do you get golden experience, but you also get access to one of these benefits. Now, these are going to affect you for all the way until you're level 22, and there's 4 different options. You can get all of them just once. The best one to start with is usually Recovery, because it gives you a lot more endurance and helps you continuously cast spells. Then I go for Accuracy, and then after that, you can get Damage and Defense. But if you want to skip Damage or Defense, it's not the worst, but I really recommend getting Recovery and Accuracy. After you've done 4 Death from Below runs, now you're kind of in the wide world and you can do whatever you want. You usually be level 12 at this point. I recommend doing task forces at this point. I think Positron 1 is the easiest to solve. You have to be at least a level 8 to do Positron 1. And there's a mix of missions and challenges and bosses and archvillains to fight. They're fun. And at the end of them, you also get merits. Merits are something that you can use to create very special enhancements, or you can trade them for salvage goods, sell that on the market. Effectively, you should think of merits as a lot of money. So if you do these task forces like Positron 1 and Positron 2, you're leveling up and you're generating wealth for yourself at the same time. And importantly, because you got all those buffs from Death from Below, you don't really have to worry about slotting enhancements all the way through this phase of the game. Now, after you spend time doing task forces and you hit level 22, this is usually the part where you need to start buying recipes and enhancements for your powers. And that's because the buffs that we got from Death from Below aren't active anymore. So what you should do is you should find a crafting table like the one in front of me. I like using Rick T Warzone. There's one in there because then I can access the auction house by typing /AH into my chat. And I can buy the recipes at the same time and easily buy everything I need. You're going to need to look at your powers and count up how many accuracy, damage, recharge, endurance mod, etc. invention IOs that you need. And then at this crafting table, you want to buy level 25 ones. So when slotting, I like to put 2 accuracy in any of my abilities that requires me to hit my opponent for them to work. For damage abilities, you usually want 3 so you can max out your damage as much as possible. And then also keep in mind that for some abilities, it might be better to have less damage or accuracy to have an extra endurance reduction enhancement in there if you're having endurance problems. And most importantly, make sure that you put at least 2 endurance modification IOs into your stamina, because that's going to ensure that you have a lot more endurance to fight. After you buy the recipes for all of your invention IOs, you need to buy the salvage as well using the market. This is a little bit tedious, but once you're done, you get to craft the enhancements. And then finally at the end, once you're done crafting all the enhancements, you get to slot them into your powers. Doesn't that look much better? And you're going to really notice a big difference. Now that you have these all slotted, your damage is going to be way higher, your accuracy is going to be way higher. And if you're having endurance problems, those should be less as well. Now, what you do after this point is basically up to you, but between levels 22 and 35, I recommend just doing task forces if people are searching for them, or just doing whatever makes you happy. But once you hit level 35, by far, the best thing to do to level up is to go on an ITF or an Imperious Task Force. I made another video explaining how to get to the zone there, because it's not simple to do so. You have to get a badge first, and then go through a secret club to get there. But Imperious Task Forces are by far the best way to level up from 35 all the way to 50. To be on an ITF, you have to be minimum level 35, but almost always the person running it is level 50. And usually the enemies are scaled up to about level 54, which means they're very strong. And the reason Imperious Task Force is very popular is because, number one, it's a very cool task force. There's tons of mobs grouped up very close to one another. And number two, because it has a huge density of bosses and elite bosses. So that means you're going to have way more experience per mission than a typical run. Now, when you do your ITFs, usually you want to join a KM ITF. KM means kill most, and that means that people are choosing to kill everything. Sometimes there is a speed ITF. I don't really see the purpose of that, because the reason you do ITFs is because there's tons and tons of mobs, so you should be killing them. But within about 3 or 4 kill most ITFs, you should be at 50 or close to 50. Just make sure at this point that you remember to keep purchasing the experience boost, because they only last for a max of 8 hours. And usually between level 35 and 50 is where you're going to forget to renew it.
Oh no.
So now that you've hit level 50, you've completed a handful of task forces up until now. You should basically focus on collecting more reward merits, unlocking your incarnates, and spending those reward merits on buying the expensive enhancements and recipes that you need to make your build really, really strong. Thanks for watching.